I should turn the fan down. Momentary pause. Momentary pause. It's not that bad. We'll leave it alone. Hi, everybody. Sorry for that awkward start. Hi, everybody. Sorry for that awkward start. Saturday, July 16th, and we're returning Saturday, July 16th, and we're returning to our attempts to build a web app with Rust and Vue, to web app and with Rust and Vue, and we were working on this last week, and we're working on this last week, and we're working on this last week, and we're working on this last week. Let me get earbuds. So we don't have that earbud. What's going on with the echo? So we don't have that earbud. What's going on with the echo? So we don't have that earbud. What's going on with the echo? Use the earbuds. Use the earbuds. Use the earbuds. Okay, so we. Okay, so we. Okay, why is there this delay? Why is there this delay? Now, does that make that go away? Yes. No, there's still a really weird delay. That is going to drive me nuts. I've not had this problem before. Hey, so lovely to see you. I'm having audio problems. If I just turn my own volume down, you can hear me okay? Is that true? If you can give me a thumbs up on that, that'd be great. Yeah, okay. Well, then I don't know what the deal is. If you can hear me, I'm not going to worry about it. I'll just turn the volume down so I don't hear myself, and we'll muddle through, and I'll try to figure out what's going on later. So, apologies for the confusion. So last week, we got the basic structure of some components worked out, and we reached the point where we were going to actually try to talk to GitHub via HTTP, and everything went splooey and blew up. We attempted, so, I was like, I could do this by just kind of doing raw HTTP calls, but who wants to do that? When there are libraries that will simplify accessing GitHub, because they've already kind of worked out a lot of the stuff. And so I was like, well, there were a few options that looked interesting. One was Octocrab and one was Octorust. Both of which looked plausible. So we tried Octocrab last week and it didn't build. So I added the dependency and it compiled fine in cargo, but when you ran trunk, it went boom, and there were errors everywhere. And some folks at home tried it as well and had the same problem, so it was pretty clear it wasn't just me. So we called we ended a little early, and I said I would look into it. Well, I did. Posted a issue on Octocrab saying, hey, this doesn't compile for me. And actually had some very nice conversations with XAMPP, Rocky, about the problem. And apparently the issue is sort of known. It's because Octocrab relies on a library called Request, R-E-Q-W-E-S-T, and Request doesn't work on WASM, I think is the issue. I'm not 100% clear, but I think Request doesn't work in WASM, so it compiles fine when you do a cargo build, but when you do trunk tries to generate, trunk generates the WASM source code, assembly code, and then that blows up because it's using the x84, no, the WASM unknown target, and request doesn't cope with that. I don't know why. I haven't dug it that deep, but it doesn't work. So Octocrab doesn't work and isn't going to work in the near term. He thinks that it wouldn't be that big a deal to change it to use the new HTTP library and Tower, which, or the newer, I guess I should say, and Tower, which would, I guess, give us more flexibility about what the target networking infrastructure is. Because what I think is the issue is that request assumes kind of a TCP stack networking structure, which when you're in the browser isn't what you get. You get sort of the browser's networking infrastructure, and that HTTP and Tower would let you be more flexible about what your infrastructure looks like. So he was like, yeah, that should be a thing. Well, I looked at it some, and I think that would be a lot of change. I think there are references to request libraries all over Octocrab, and that it would not be a trivial thing to make that change. That said, I subsequently learned that there is a library, rekwasm, which seems, and I haven't looked into this hard, but it seems that rekwasm is essentially request, but with wasm as the target. And that the interfaces, well, the traits, I guess, are more or less the same. And so I wonder if one could fork Octocrab. I'm not going to do this, not today at least. But I have this feeling maybe you could fork Octocrab and essentially just replace the request dependency with the rekwasm dependency, and everything would magically get better and work in the browser. I don't know. And I haven't tried it, and I don't think I want to try it live today because it seems like the potential for deep rabbit holes is high, and that probably wouldn't be the best way to use our time together. So then I thought, well, let's try Octorust. We'll give Octorust a try. Well, it doesn't compile either. Octorust, and they even say, if you dig into the issues enough, they're like, yeah, we don't really support WASM. They don't say that like up here where it would be useful to know, but they get, if you dig into the issues, they're like, yeah, we don't really work on WASM, and that's too bad. And I think that at some level the problem is the same, that Octorust is using networking tools that assume you're on a full TCP stack universe, and that isn't true in the same way when you're in the browser, and that this blows up. So I think that's the issue. So neither of these libraries are going to work. They could be made to work, maybe easily in the case of Octocrab, but they don't work now. So we're going to just have to suck it up and kind of do the networking ourselves. I'm not thrilled about this, but it's a thing. And this is the price one pays for working with things that are clearly still under development. I mean, Rust is new, and the web tools or the networking tools are still in flux. Octorust has a version of 0.1.37. Octocrab has a version of 0.16, right? I mean, you're working in a land of, very pre-release stuff. So I can't really complain. It's not like I came into this expecting super refined tools. So I'm a little sad, but we'll cope. So it turns out, and I had read this and forgotten it, that the U tutorial actually has an example of fetching data using a REST API. And we can actually use that, I think, as a starting point to getting our data from GitHub. Now, I'll also say that I'm going to start off today by not getting data directly from GitHub. I played a little bit with getting data from GitHub last night and ran into a bunch of issues that I never was able to resolve. So I'm going to actually unwind all that, make sure that we've got the basics of being able to get some data and bring it back. And then when that's working, and we know that we've got that part of it working, then I'm going to try talking to GitHub, because I'm a little concerned that GitHub complicates the situation. I know it's going to complicate stuff when we get to the need for authentication, but I think there may be complications even before that. And so I'm going to try to break this up into pieces so that we can hopefully make some progress and not get hopelessly lost. Whew, them's a lot of noises. And I guess I should say, just to catch everybody up, knee's doing well. So it's now been 2 weeks yesterday after the operation, and making progress. I still limp, and I'm very slow on stairs. But we are getting better, and that's a cool thing. Should be able to do today and Tuesday. The following Saturday, a week from today, that's not going to happen. There's nothing to do with my knee this time. There's a family event, big family reunion thing in Wisconsin that I've got to go to. And so I will be doing family stuff Saturday morning, a week from today. So we should be here Tuesday, but we won't be here Saturday. We should be back the following. Well, I don't know if we'll be back the following Tuesday. I'll still be in Wisconsin, but we'll be at my sister's, and I could probably arrange to stream from her house, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. So it's been a much less consistent summer than I had expected, and I apologize for that. But life is a challenge. And it's not like I'm getting paid to do this. So, okay. Let's see if we can actually fetch some external data and get somewhere. I'm going to hop over here. I'm going to make a branch. Add basic HTTP request as a branch. And then I'm going to come over here. And then I want to so we're going to need some dependencies, and notice that they're using rekwasm. I feel like rekwasm has a newer version than that. Yeah, so it's up to 0.50. So we want to add, where did my tutorial go? So we want to rekwasm 0.5 dependencies. So rekwasm is already here. So that came with the template that I set up. I can update it to the newer version, but it is actually already there. We're going to need serde. Now I think serde. Oh no, serde is not there. So let's grab serde. And serde is a Rust library that translates back and forth between JSON and Rust objects. And it must do some pretty serious voodoo. Serde is something I should look into more, because the type system in Rust requires that serde that conversion between JSON and Rust be typed, be strongly typed and carefully checked. And so there's clearly a lot going on there. And I think, and there's a lot of macro stuff happening. And I suspect it would be informative to learn more about how serde works than I know now. But I've got the basics kind of in my head, and we'll be able to use serde to move back and forth between Rust objects and JSON objects. And then we need wasm bingen futures. And that, I'll put that here after wasm bingen. Oh, actually, serde was up there. So maybe I didn't need to add this. But I think I do need the features derive. Unless if you just include it, it probably brings in everything. I don't know, actually. So let's go ahead and be explicit about the features. Derive features equal derive. Boom. Get rid of that. Okay. Whoa, Rust Analyzer is not happy. I bet I have gone and cargo build. Unexpected comma. I got the syntax wrong. Oops, what do I want? I want this. Version, comma, features. Oh, I don't have the version. Version equal. Now we'll be happier. Yay. Let's make those go away. Cargo build, just to make sure we build still. Doodly-doo. So serde, you basically tell it what the target, let's say you're going from JSON to Rust. You tell it what the target type is, which is going to be a struct. And it actually, basically, my sense is, it attempts to look for all the fields in the struct in the JSON, and they have mappable types. So if your struct is a I32, then the JSON's got to have a number that can parse to an integer. But I think that, like, if you're by default, like if you're missing anything, if you have something in your Rust, say there's a title field in your Rust, and there's not a title field in the JSON, that conversion will fail because, of course, in Rust you have to have something in all the spots. And so you can deal with that by declaring a field to be an option type, and then if the thing's missing in the JSON, you get the none variant, and if it's there, then you get the some variant. So they're using some things like that to manage the places where things don't line up perfectly. And then there's something similar going the other way, from a Rust object to a JSON object. And there is a serde : value type, which is just a generic piece of JSON without it being connected to a Rust object. But it is a Rust type, but it's a Rust value. So it's cool. And it seems to be the thing everybody uses. So let's see, we got a comment here. Never heard of rekwasm, but just had a look at the source. The latest version simply re-exports all of GlueNet, which has an even newer version, so that might be better to use. So this is something I don't know anything about. There's a lot of references to glue. There's like a bazillion glue libraries, and I've never looked up what those are. So I don't really know what glue does, but it clearly is a dependency in all of this. And I assumed, I think from something I saw, that it was something that was connecting in the WASM world, something that was connecting Rust to some aspect of the WASM browser universe, but I never got any farther than that. So I don't really, you almost certainly know more about this than I do. And by latest version, I assume we mean latest version of RecWasm. So we've just updated to that. Oh, and notice that we have a dependency on glue here. I have no idea what that does for us and what would happen if we removed it, but it showed up as part of the template that I used. Okay. So we've got, it builds, yay. Now I wanted, yeah, there we go. Okay, so in their example, the WebSys and JSys are low-level bindings to JavaScript from WASM. And oh, okay, that's cool. Well, thank you. I didn't know that. I think I'd seen in some reading, I think I understood that WebSys and JSys were bindings to the web and JavaScript components of the browser, but I did not know that Glue was an API built on top of that. So that's actually kind of nifty. Okay, cool. Thank you. So this example that I want to start with from the U tutorial, and I want to sort of get this working essentially, and then we'll try to turn this into something a little more fancy, and then try to eventually get it to talk to GitHub. But this kind of walks us through some of the issues and actually illustrates some of the serde stuff. So they define a struct video. So they're trying to their little example is like listing a set of videos, and so they have a struct video that has an ID, a title, a speaker, and a URL. They derive clone and partially queue, but they also derive deserialize, which comes from serde. And you can derive both serialize and deserialize, and as long as you've got your types in your struct are in some simple way serializable and deserializable, mappable to JavaScript values, then it will automatically create the serialize and deserialize methods to let you read JSON and generate a Rust value and vice versa. So here we're just deserializing, so we're taking JSON and turning it into these video structs. So let's go ahead and throw that in. We obviously don't want video structs in the end, but one of the things I realized in doing some homework yesterday is the structs we do want coming from GitHub are gonna be huge. Oh my gosh, they're gonna be enormous. And I'm not sure how easy or hard it will be to get away with only dealing with parts of them, because I'll only need little bits of them, or whether we're going to have to actually create Rust structs that handle all of the fields that we can get from GitHub. So I'm kind of pushing that off for a little bit. We might come back to it later today. We might come back to it on Tuesday. Well, and I thought about that actually. I can steal, here I'll actually show you. I think it's in lib. I could steal Octocrab's, and I assume there's something similar in Octorust. Where is struct repo? Here, let's search for repository. That would be thought it was in here. Maybe I'm wrong. Huh. thought it was in this file, but now I'm not seeing it. Yeah, I don't. Where am I? I'm in lib. Was it an API? No, definitely not. Well, we don't need to wrestle with it right now because I don't want to steal it right now. But I can show you a model. Yeah, it's not in this one. That's where I first thought it was going to be. But I can show you an example of a model in here. Okay, let's see. Find me. Okay, yeah. So here's an issue event, and there are a lot of fields, and you get all these serde annotations for handling what to do if things are not available. And the repository model was like 2 pages of this. It's really long. And I was like, oh, do I really want all of that? And we may have to have it. Oh, there's repository. Okay, so here's all of this. So the repository starts on line 367 and goes to line 533. So it's not small. And I sure don't want to type all that out myself. So if it turns out we have to have all that, and it's long because that's what GitHub returns, right? GitHub's JSON, the information it has about a repository is very rich, and there's a lot of stuff there, which, yeah, I get, right? There's a lot of information about a repository. But because Rust requires that we have everything from a type perspective, you end up with these enormous collections of optional thingies. Now, one thing I haven't figured out, haven't really looked into, is whether or not in serde, whether I can say have a small Rust struct and a big JSON object, and if serde serialization or deserialization will just ignore the things that were in the JSON that don't match something that's in the Rust struct. And if that's true, yeah, it would be nice to have something that automatically inserted those checks, because there's a lot of them. I mean, there's a lot of lines, 100 something lines probably, of that option is none thing. If I can do that, if I can deserialize from a big JSON into a little Rust thing, then I might be able to get away with just a much smaller thing. And so the suggestion here is that it should be fine if you're deserializing. That'd be great. And I think that at the moment, for what I'm envisioning for this project, I will never need to send a large anything back to GitHub. That I'm going to request the repositories associated with an organization. I'm going to display those. The user is going to select which ones they want to archive, and then I'm going to send back HTTP requests saying, please archive this repository. And that request is going to be pretty simple because I don't have to send a whole repository object back. I just have to send the ID, I think. And then GitHub will be like, oh, that's the repository you want to archive? I will do that. I think there's going to be a whole pile of authorization issues that I'm going to have to deal with that I don't have any idea how awful those are going to be. Again, I was hoping Octocrab / Octorust / something was going to sort of hide a lot of that for me, and now it's going to be more exposed, which, I'll probably learn more that way, so it's not terrible. Yeah, but I think I'm gonna probably need. I think I'm gonna need an API key for the app, and there's gonna be some futzing around. Uh, a lot of paperwork, I think, is gonna have to get done. But yeah, once all that's working, I don't think it'll be too hard. He says, crossing his fingers. So, so yeah, that's so I could steal this model, absolutely, and there must be something similar in Octorust. And Octorust actually does have one of the nice things about Octorust is it's automatically generated from the published specs. Octocrab was more hand built, whereas Octorust is sort of auto generated, and so it's probably even more complete in some sense. I don't know where. Yeah, I don't think we want to go digging around, but I don't know if it's in repos or if it's somewhere else. But there's going to be something similar in Octorust. So, I could pull that up, but I don't care. For now, we'll just wade through it by hand, and I'll learn more, and that's fine. And I've got you wonderful people here to help me, so thank you. Okay, so we're going to start. We'll just do this video thing because it's simple, and we can convince ourselves that it works, and then we can integrate it into my little app, and then we'll replace that with something a little more interesting, and then we'll see if we can talk to actually GitHub. Okay. So we're going to need this video struct. So I'm just going to grab this. And let's go over here. And okay, so actually we should back up a second before I pop the video struct in. So this is our, let's close you. This is our homepage components. This is our main component. So we've got just some heading stuff, which probably should be its own, well, I don't know if it should be its own component. Then we have our text input that we spent like 2 weeks making, where you enter an organization or a GitHub classroom eventually, and it grabs that, whatever gets entered there, gets captured through this on-change callback, and gets set to the organization. So the home page has a state, which is a string, which is initially the empty string, and we're going to use it to capture the organization that was entered, or the classroom. I'll have to figure out if I actually allow the classroom as an option. I'm going to have to change some things later, but actually, yeah. Well, I'll leave that there just as a reminder to myself, but we definitely don't support that right now. Although to say we support anything is nonsense because we don't even talk to GitHub. So, but we set the organization to be the string that they entered. So that captures that in this state. Oh, cool. Thank you. I appreciate that. There appears to be tricks to ignore fields. Awesome, because I think we need very few of them. I don't think we need very much of all that stuff. So if we can ignore some stuff, that would be great. And then if the organization is not empty, then we display this little thing. And now what I want to do is turn this into a new component that gets that will get the list of repositories for the organization, display them as a checklist, yada yada yada. So we're going to want to make a new repository list, and we're going to want to pass in the organization, and that will hopefully let us do things. So now we've got a create a new function component, and we called it repository list, and pub fn repository list, snake case, props. So we pass in information to a function component through a properties struct. So we're going to have to repository list props, have to make a thing for that, and it's going to return an HTML, and we'll just do hello for now, and come back and do something sensible. And then we need the props struct. Oh, I'm going to need to derive some stuff, aren't I? Yeah, so I want, actually I'll just steal this. Boom. Undo. What did I do there? I coped poorly. Copy and paste. Struct repository list props. And this is going to have an organization, which is a string. String. It's weird spelling. Okay. So now I think everything compiles. Let's see. Oh, that's very nice. Okay, so there's a comment that with a link to what looks like very useful serde rs ater flatten HTML capture additional fields. Haha. Okay. And so that's very nice because it lets us ignore fields, but it puts them in a hash map so that if we want to go look at them later, we can. Good. Thank you. Excellent suggestion. That would be really nice. So allows us to grab this stuff without worrying about whether we need it right away. And then if we find that we're looking for stuff in that map consistently, then that's probably a cue that we should move those things out of the map and into our struct. But that way we can be more incremental about it. They can be in the map until we decide we need them, and then we can move them into the struct, which would make me happier. So I like that. Thank you. Great suggestion. It's so good working with people that know what they're doing. It's also, I hadn't really thought about it until I started doing this live streaming thing, but the ability to have like several people Googling at once is actually pretty nifty. You get, I think, some nice stuff out of that. So a serde value was, so that would be, I assume that was probably here. Yeah. So in general, serde will convert things to Rust types that you specify, but the serde value type, actually it's in serde, the serde JSON library. The serde JSON value is a generic way to hold JSON values, and so it's a capital O object with elements that are names and typed values. So like it'll be capital S string, open paren, and then a string, or some numeric type, open paren, some numeric value. And so that you can, it's not nearly as convenient. If you have a value type, you would have to do a lot more like if then kind of checking to see what's in there. and to use the stuff, which is why you would want to move it into your Rust object if at all possible, because then Serde will do all the checking and conversion for you. But you could go digging around in this value object if you need to. And I think I'm going to try doing an example of a serde value object here today if we get that far, because I was going to use that as a first pass for getting the stuff from GitHub without having to worry about like having a properly formed Rust object to capture the GitHub information. I was just going to stick it in a serde JSON value so I could look at it and make sure it was coming in and looking value-like we were getting the right JSON from the request. And then I was going to try to figure out how to actually parse it into an object that we care about, which you could kind of do with this idea. If you left out all of these and just had this, it would be much the same thing, in that you would end up with a map of strings to values without anything being formally parsed. So that's very cool. Thank you. So let's see. Do we build here, or do we have a? No, we have a shouty bit. Is my syntax wrong here? So text input. Let me look at my text input props. Oh, I think it's a type thing. Is that right? I think because organization is a use state handle, do I have to dereference it? And then is this one of these things? No, it is not one of those things. Okay, I've forgotten. What do I have to do here? To pass a value in. Okay, so value equals. So here, field contents is a use state handle string, and we're passing it in. Value equals. Oh, so maybe the problem. Yeah, maybe I have to actually. Oh, stop it. Maybe I actually have to say organization equals, and then that. Is that happier? Oh, it doesn't like organization. Blur. What am I doing wrong? I'm doing something simple and stupid. So repository list props has an organization type string. Am I running into a problem that this name is being used? Into prop value string declared. This method, it doesn't. Oh, did I? No, I said that was string. And I think that's all I needed. What am I doing wrong? Think so? Certainly do that. No, it doesn't like that. move the problem though. Cannot move out of dereference. So, okay, there was a clone up above. Is that the problem? Aha! There we go. I remembered into from somewhere and used it, and I was supposed to do clone. Okay. So we have to dereference the state to get the string. Then we have to clone the string and pass that clone in as the argument to the repository list. Clearly this is not intuitive to me yet. And I flail. But, okay. So, the dereference turns the useState handle string into a string, and then we have to clone it because the repository list has to have its own copy of the string. I'm not sure why we can't pass a reference, because we don't need to change it. Is there? I wonder if I change that to that, and I change my type to be a reference. Does that work? No, it doesn't like that. Oh, lifetime. Lifetimes. Oh, I think this is why. Yeah, I think this is why we're not using string slices. As I got into that and went lifetimes and ran away. So, which I really ought to come back and try to resolve, because running away from a topic like that's as important as lifetimes instead of addressing it is probably not smart. Okay, well, this works. I think everything compiles, and if we trunk serve open wanna and lo and behold, and if I put frogs in and submit, we get the list of repositories for the organization frogs, and we get our hello. So this hello is coming from our component. So our simple little, we are passing, we're getting our organization here from the text input. We are passing it successfully to the repository list, which is displaying hello. So, yay! And I guess we could have format bang, just to be super sure, props dot organization, boom, and now that actually ought to come on, rebuild. There we go. Yeah, the feedback loop is not the fastest because the Rust compiler is doing so much work. Hey, hello frogs. So we are passing our data around. Yeah, so I appreciate that all that cloning does not make me happy, and clearly it's computationally. I mean, we're doing a lot of computation. We're cloning these strings, and it's, I think, entirely unnecessary. We don't need a copy of the string here. A reference to the string really ought to do. And we just have to be clear about the lifetimes. One thing that I'm a little uncertain about, and I'm sure some reading would fix this, and I just haven't done that reading, is I don't know. I feel like the lifetimes of these strings is going to be tied to the lifetimes of the components, and I don't really know what the lifetimes of the components look like. I don't know how when the components are created, and in particular when they might be destroyed. Like if if you moved to another page in U, which we may never do actually, but if you did, do the components that were on the page you left, do they actually get torn down and then rebuilt if you come back to it, or are they persisted in memory and then they just pop back up when you go back there? There's a lot of issues like that I don't know the answers to. And if we weren't using a GUI framework, it would probably be a little easier to figure out what the lifetimes are. But here you really have to understand how you handles this stuff. And I have not done the homework necessary to like get my head around that. So we're going to be bad and we're going to clone things for a little while. And we might come back to that at a later point and try to clean that up. In fact, do I still have a note about that? Yeah, so I do have a note here saying that I should like probably stop doing all this cloning. So that's a thing. Okay, so we've got our repository. Yay! Now we are finally going to go back to the movies. I copied this 100,000 years ago, and yeah, we got sidetracked by other things. So we're gonna quickly, for the moment, do this movie thing, and that's clearly goofy, and we'll have to fix that. But we're gonna have to derive, clone, partial, EQ, and deserialize. Right, I get that right. Clone, partial, EQ, and deserialize. Yeah, okay. And deserialize doesn't exist because we need to import it. Now I think it's gonna. Yeah, it doesn't like put these in. I don't know if that's sort of a great way to structure that or not, but okay, fine. So there we have them. Where did the movies go? I scrolled past them. There they are. There's the video. So we've got the video structure now, and now we can actually grab that from the web. So they've got this little JSON object here. So I'm going to do this, and then we'll actually move to something a little fancier, and then we'll try to get to GitHub itself. I'm going to grab, I don't want all of that. I want this. I'll grab all of that. Oops, no, all of this. And so our repository, it goes here. And they have buried us in little pluses, which is annoying. Oh, undo. I deleted something I wasn't supposed to. Boom. Okay. So we're setting the state of this component to be a list of a vec of videos. We are setting this with effect, use effect with deps callback, so that when this, I'm not doing this well. This is going to do our call to the web and grab the videos. Oh, hang on. I think I did a thing here that I was not supposed to do. I think. Okay, I want to make sure I did where I broke that. So the double bar goes right over that. Okay, so they've got it that way. Fine. Sure, that'll do. Actually, probably over here. So this is going to make the request and set the state to be the received videos. Now we don't have a request here, so we're going to have to import request wasm HTTP request. Where did it put that? I think I want that to be down after these guys. So this component, whoa, hang on. We're going to clone our current list of videos, which I don't, oh yeah, because it's not really the list of videos, it's the state object. And so we're cloning it so that we can move that in and have the set happen down here on that. And this wasm bingen futures lets us do JavaScript futures essentially, as opposed to you might do a thread if you were doing a back-end system. And we make a request. So this is one of these. You made the comment that they were just doing all the GlueNet stuff, and you can see that here. This request that is in theory a rec wasm thing apparently is really just a request struct in GlueNet. So good catch. So we're making a request, an HTTP request to this URL. It's a GET request, and we could do request post, blah, blah, blah. So we're doing a request on this URL, and then we send the request. We can actually insert other lines between constructing the request and actually sending it that change properties of the request, add additional information before we actually send it, so we can build up the request incrementally. So we send the request, that gives us a future. We await that. That's going to return a result. So in the same way that there's this request type, there's a corresponding result type, which has a response and an error, because we might have gotten an error. Here we're just unwrapping, which I think might be a bad choice. Well, I mean, it actually is a bad choice. We're going to need to do a little more reasonable error checking here, and probably break this chain up, I think, so that we're not doing it all in one big thing. But I could be wrong. Maybe we can just get away with expect there instead of unwrap to do something sensible. But assuming it works, unwrap gives us a response, and we can call .json on a response, which then under the covers calls serde to map. And this is actually where the real magic is. This JSON call takes the body, uses serde to deserialize that into a Rust object. Which Rust object? A vec of videos, because we've said that that's what we're after here. So it's using this type specification here. Yeah, you would want some sort of feedback on the website. So we would need to have something that's like, oh, if this went bad, generate an alert, or take people to an error page, or have a little snack bar come up. I don't know. We'll figure that sort of what would be a good usability approach for that when we get there. But by specifying that we want a vec of videos here, that type information drives the JSON call here to parse into a vec of videos. So it's going to assume that the body of this request, and if we go look at that, we can see what this actually returns. Oh, no, I do not need you to translate that. So this is an array, which will be a vec when it gets to Rust, of things that can be deserialized into video objects. So that's what's going to happen when this JSON call happens. And that actually returns a future, which I found a little odd, but I guess if you had a really big response, that could take a while. And so having it happen asynchronously might be desirable. So you have to wait for that to be done. And then again, that could fail. And notice that at this point we have a result, which is either a vec video or an error. And we have to unwrap. And again, that could fail because we got stuff that wasn't the right type. The first failure could easily be user driven. So if they entered an organization that didn't exist, for example, there's a spelling mistake in their organization, this could fail because they did something wrong, and we would need to make sure we give them feedback about that so that they can fix it. If this fails, that probably happened because we did something wrong as programmers, I think. I think that if this fails, that's saying that somehow we got something back that we couldn't parse, which probably means that our code doesn't line up with GitHub's universe properly. And so that's a little trickier to figure out how to deal with. And that might just be the world ended, we're sorry, kind of error message. But it'd be nice to do better than that. And then we unwrap, and that gets us back to the type vec video. So this whole thing makes the request, constructs the request, sends it, waits for the response, unwraps the response, blithely hoping everything's fine, converts to JSON, awaits the conversion, unwraps that, blithely assuming everything's fine, and then we can set videos.set fetch video. So we can change the state to be this returned videos, and now like that all compiles, and if we come back to the tutorial, we can display that with oh yes, right, so they've got a video list type here, and I don't really want to make that, so I'm going to go steal the important part of it, which is where was that video list component? Video details, video list. Here we go. So actually they do this map collect thing, and we don't need most of this. Like we don't need this callback on a button and stuff, but this mapping over the videos and building a little HTML and then collecting all those HTMLs actually does a really nice job of generating sort of a bunch of HTML for each video. So I think we steal this line. And then we want to steal this part. We'll have to tidy up. Let's get rid of the minus line. Get rid of the plus. Do 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 do. And then I think we get rid of. Oh, this should have all been out here. We don't want that other HTML. Boom, boom. And then we get rid of this on click because we don't care about it. Go away. Hello. Thank you. Oh, stop it. Boom, boom, boom. And everything seems to compile. Frogs. and something didn't work. Develop JavaScript console. Oh, right. I knew this. I have to read down a little farther. So as they say, this almost works, but there's a CORS problem. And I think if we go back here, yeah, we find that there's access control, allow origin stuff. So we have a cross-site issue, and so it doesn't work. Because we're trying to call this u.rs tutorial thing from our local host thing, and it's all like, you shouldn't do that. And so the solution that the U tutorial recommends is to add this proxy backend thing. Now, I played with that a little bit yesterday, and I am not 100% sure I get exactly what's going on. I mean, the description is pretty straightforward, but I had some weird experiences with it. And so we're going to play with that, and that may be part of what the second hour ends up being, is messing around with trunk proxies. But if I do this, as they say, it does seem to work. Okay, so now if I say frogs or whatever, because it's going to get ignored. Whoa, that did not work. Oh, but we did the thing, right? Proxy backend, HTTP. Yeah. I think I know. I think that, yes, I also needed to change the URL. Yeah, that's right. So if you specify the proxy backend here, then you don't need that part. In fact, you can't have that part in your requests. So this much of the request has to be that's interesting. Tutorial appears in both places. Okay. That's interesting. Maybe we'll actually explore that in a second. But we've got to get rid of the u.rs, HTTP u.rs at the front. This goes away. I think they have a slash in front. Yeah, they do. So that disappears. And now... Okay, so it built. Do we now work? Frogs. Hey, it does. Okay. So this actually is coming from that request. So we were making the request to their server, and we're getting the little JSON thing back. And that JSON thing is being parsed into a vector of video structs, which have speakers and titles. And we are then displaying the speaker and the title, the speaker and the title, the speaker and the title, the speaker and the title. So we are successfully getting the data from this website, parsing it into a vector of Rust things, and then down here we're mapping over the list of the vector of video things, and we are constructing a little bit of HTML, which is just this p tag formatting the speaker colon title, and then collect on this. So that the map gives us a vector, an iterator over HTML objects. We collect all those, and collect appears in this case to sort of join all those HTML things up into a single HTML thing, which we return, and that's what gets displayed here. Voila. So that's very exciting, and that works. Now, I want to actually think a little bit about the proxy thing. Actually, I want to, let's, trunk proxy. So this was where it describes this proxy business. Excuse me. Adjust my chair so my knee doesn't yell at me any more than necessary. So trunk, we can give it proxy backend and proxy rewrite, and also something about WebSockets, which we're not going to care about. And we use proxy backend. That's what the you people pointed us at. And it said that proxy backend, blah, 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 will proxy any request received on API to this thing, API. Okay. So that's why we have this appears in both places, and that's why we wanted tutorial. I guess go back to the tutorial. That's why we had the word tutorial here and here. So this is telling us that we're gonna use that proxy, but we're gonna propagate that across to the call. Okay. And rewrite, and I think that rewrite's going to be important because the GitHub API doesn't have anything after the slash. Like, you get straight into the action. It's not like github.com/API. This is the whole link to the API. So if we need to proxy, I don't think there's a thing like API here that we can key on and that would persist across the call, because there's nothing guaranteed after this slash. It varies from call to call to call. There's not a single thing that goes there. And so rewrite, I feel like, is going to have to be the thing we'll end up using, because it does strip the API prefix or whatever you provide from the request, but everything after that's being left unchanged. So I think we'll have to have something that's like GitHub API, and that'll get stripped out and replaced with api.github.com. Something like that I think is going to have to happen. But I'm not going to chase that fish right now. The other thing I did want to do here is that there is because clearly we don't want to have to specify this when we call trunk every time. Like, we don't, where? Oh, here we go. We don't want to have this proxy backend every time we call trunk. That's not going to be good. So it would be nice to be able to put that someplace where it just happens, and that's actually what the config file does. So there's a trunk.toml file. It accepts multiple proxy sections, so we can have proxy sections that handle this sort of stuff for us. So let's do that. And let's kill this and go here. Trunk dot toml. So we'll have a proxy section, and we're going to rewrite, in our case, actually back to here. We're going to rewrite this. So that's going to go here. And we don't need a rewrite in this case. We'll just have a back end. And that will, I think, do the desired thing. Let's find out. Now we'll get rid of the proxy call. I hope that this works. And I just want to look. Yeah. And we're proxying tutorial to, yeah, okay. So this is nice. It's telling us that we're proxying this to this. That looks reasonable. And so I think if I do frogs again, hey, it worked. Okay. So now we don't need to specify the proxy when we make the trunk call. It's actually cooked into the system here through this proxy. So that's awesome. Yay, team. Now, at this point, we've kind of got a basic web request thing happening. It's not going to GitHub, but it is working. Now I want to, so actually I'm going to I'm going to commit that, because this is, oh, we got a whole bunch of spellings. We added was and bingen, and I must have changed some other things. Oh, there's a whole lot of stuff here. I clearly must have not gotten around to committing some stuff from last week. That's not awesome at all. Well, okay. I'm gonna hang on, what am I doing? Oh no, that's a commit from before. That's the problem. I'm like, what is all this stuff? Okay, here's what we did today. This looks much more reasonable. Okay. And so I'm going to stage all this and say we get the U tutorial video example working. This gets the U tutorial video example working, where we make an HTTP request and parse a simple JSON body into a vector of videos. Boom. There we go. So we got that part working. Yay us. Now we could go straight to GitHub from here, but because GitHub has authorization and a whole bunch of other stuff going on, I'm actually inclined to have as a way station, because I am concerned about, oh, I guess I think I opened this already. Yeah, I did. I'm concerned about running into authorization issues and not being able to tell the difference between an authorization issue and a parsing issue. So I want to actually hit something that's a little more interesting and make sure I'm parsing things reasonably. And also, this might be a good time to experiment with the not building the full JSON object. um, and try the this capturing additional fields idea. So JSON placeholder.typico.com gives you just a bunch of JSON calls that you can make for testing, basically, for figuring stuff out, and that's exactly what we're doing. So we can use that to figure some stuff out, and let's see. Oh no, don't user ID title. So there's like posts that have a user ID, an ID for the post, a title, and a body. There's also things like to-dos that have a user ID and an ID and a title and whether they're completed or not. So I think a post is kind of like a repository if you squint really hard. So maybe if we play with trying to download and display some posts, that would help me make sure that I've got the proxying right, and all of that. And notice this is actually sort of convenient because like posts and comments are just after the slash. So again, there's no kind of marker after the slash that's shared across all the calls. They just go straight to the call after the slash. So that'll, I think, hopefully help us make sure that we've got our proxying right and that I understand what's going on there. So I'm going to see if we can grab some posts. And actually, let's start by sorting out the type. So I'm actually going to lose the video type. And just pop this in here as a comment. So this will be a post type, and it's going to have an ID. It's going to have a user ID, which will also be a usize. It has a title and it has a body, and it does not have a URL. So we'll start with everything. Oh, why is it fussing there? Oh, right. So user ID is a camel case in this data set, and in Rustland we're supposed to use snake case. There is a way in serde, and I don't remember what it is, but we'll find out. Camel case to snake case. Serialized fields is camel case. Haha. So it's atter rename. And I don't want to rename all. There was a way to do it for just one. I thought. Huh? It says everybody. I don't really want to do everybody. And I know I've seen well, maybe we do just rename all, but I thought I've seen a way to do it sort of on a per thing basis. Well, we'll do rename all. If I find myself caring later, I can dig around. So we say boom, and then so in our struct we do snake case. Well, I guess that's the only snake case thing, so these others will be left alone. So I think that'll probably be okay. So that allows us to automatically rename between user underscore ID in snake case and user capital ID in camel case. So we can deal with the fact that a lot of data sources will have different types. So now instead of going to tutorial/JSON, I want to go to posts, and I want this to be a vec of post, right? Yeah, vec of post, and I don't think I want to guess this really should probably be called posts. Rename symbol. Oh, yeah, because we keep shadowing. We're just gonna have to. Oh, actually, I could have probably done it there, because that would catch. That caught this guy, yeah. Rename symbol posts. And now we'll say, I don't know, we'll do the title, post.title, and post.body. And this is going to be, that needs to be post. And this is not great layout. So we could instead do something like H2 format bang. Oh, I guess we don't really need the format because we're just going to put the post.title. And that ends H2, and then the body, the paragraph can just be the post.body. Oh, we got to put that in a div because you can have two things inside an HTML. Boom, bum, beep. And not happy. Oh, right, because we need, so we're going to have all the cloning nonsense. Really? Wow. That makes that go away, yeah. So another reason to want to be doing references and not cloning, because that's just dumb. Okay. So that all compiles. Now the trunk toml, we need, now I think I can, I probably should have left the other one functioning because that might have been useful, but so our back end is going to be this. That, and then okay, we have to look at the trunk thing. So what does rewrite do again? Rewrite takes a back end and a proxy rewrite, and so anything that has this proxy will map over to here with the proxy removed. But maybe we can just say /comments, and then in the code, no, posts, and in code we just say posts. I think that'd work. So maybe I was making this harder than it needed to be. Maybe that'll actually do the right thing. Let us find out, because I think it all compiles. Trunk serve open. Okay, it built, and we're still proxying tutorial to US tutorial. We're proxying posts to JSON placeholder.typico.com/posts, which is what we were wanting. So in theory, frogs, submit. Hey, we get stuff. Now whoa, that's a lot. We get a lot of stuff. Formatting's not useful, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. That isn't the immediate question. Now, I just want to check. So the title was Sunt aut facere. I don't know how to pronounce Latin. Sunt aut facere, and then the body's quia et suscipit. Quia et suscipit. Oh, interesting. There's a \n here, which is being ignored because rendering HTML basically ignores white space like that. So we're just getting this as one really long line. Yeah, okay. So cool. I think it did a thing. Yay! So I'm actually pretty happy about that, because I was thinking that might be harder than it turned out to be. So I'm actually pretty pleased. And let us, for fun, try to do this where we don't parse all the stuff. And use that nice idea here and see if we can make that work, because I'd like to see that in action. So so we've got the fields we want, and then we'll have this for anything extra. So let's see, in our post, well, let's just have the title and this body be in the extras. So we'll comment them out. And so we have to do some importing. And value needs to be imported. No, I didn't want self value. I'm going to have to say use serde JSON value. Rar? I thought we had that. Oh, we don't. Well, that would be the problem. Serde JSON, and that is version 1.0, I think. Come back here, and where were we? Okay, so this all seems happy now. Now we're going to have issues right here. Post won't have a title or a clone. So let's start by just having user ID and ID. And I probably don't need the clones there because they're just numbers, but do I have to restart trunk? Maybe not. Maybe it's happy. Yeah, okay. So we get a bunch of IDs. That's what we expected. Now, can we get instead things out of that extra hash map? In theory, the answer is yes. Let's see if we just get the title. Post.extras. Oh, it's just extra dot get. And the key is going to be the string title, I think. Dot unwrap. Boom. Now, does that work? Do we compile? We compile. Let me say frogs. Go. Hey, look at that. We managed to get the string out of the extras and print it. So that's cool. So that means we have a way of parsing JSON that is in theory super complicated, but map it into a much smaller Rust struct where we get to ignore the 99% of the stuff that we don't care about. Very cool. Okay. And like, I think one thing, if we move to doing GraphQL, which would be a whole nother kettle of fish, I think one of the advantages of that is we could, in our GraphQL query, say, we only want these fields. Don't give us everything. Just give us the bits we care about. We would reduce the amount of traffic, network traffic being generated in the process. But I'm not opening that door right now. So let's see if we can actually talk to GitHub. That would be kind of a cool way to end things. And we've got about 25 minutes left, so fingers crossed. So, blah, 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 blah. I want to do something simple. I want to get, and I don't want to get into authentication. I just want to get like the organizations. Is that what we want? So I don't want all organizations. I want, oh yeah, there we go. I want a single organization. So HTTPS, API, github.com, orgs, and then the organization that I want. And so if I do UMM CSI 3601, this is the organization that is kind of the primary copies of the labs for one of our classes, Computer Science 3601, Software Design and Development. And so that would give us the information about the organization, but I really want the repos. So it looks like if I put /repos at the end of this, I get a list of all the repositories. And you can see there's a lot of stuff. And so if I can avoid having to create Rust structures with all of those fields, that would make me happy. So let's see if we can make a repository struct. So I probably want the ID, because I bet I'll need the ID for archiving later. I want the name. Maybe I want the full name. No, that's probably pretty repetitious. So maybe just the name. So I'm going to want the ID and the name. And maybe the description. Let's do that much. The ID, the name, and the description. Okay. So we're going to... Oh, and actually these were... Oh, these are all snake case. How convenient. So I'm not going to need that renaming business. So we can get rid of this. Boom. Call this a repository. And we'll have a ID. So we'll need that ID there. And we'll have a name, which will be a string, and a description, which will be a string. We'll start with that. And then we'll squidge everything else into the map for fun. Okay. So now all the posts things are going to have to turn into repositories. So we're going to have to do a lot of that nonsense. Repositories. And this will be repositories. And this will be repositories. And that'll be repositories, and that will be repository singular. Repository singular. And we'll say do you'd want the title to be the name, and actually I guess we could put the ID in as well. Format bang, title open paren ID. Oops. Repository.id. Boom. And oh, this is still post repository. So it didn't know. Now it understands that that's a repository. Okay, good. So we can clone the name, get the ID, which doesn't need to be cloned because it's just a number, and then we will put the description, which we'll clone because I'm a bad person. Okay. Now that looks like that compile. Oh no, props. What's the deal? Oh, we actually the URL. We need the URL to actually do something interesting. So that's the URL we're after. Let's go to trunk.toml and say proxy backend boom, and we'll do orgs, and then in the code we will say orgs. Let's actually just be crude and hard code in a repository for starters, and we'll make it make sure I get the orgs. Yeah, okay. We'll have to. This should be the organization that's coming in through our properties. But for now, I'm just going to hard code this thing in, and we're going to hope for the best. Woohoo! And let's see. Everything seems like it compiles. That always slightly freaks me out that it worked. Now I don't know if I need to restart this because I changed the toml, trunk.toml, but I don't know. Let's find out. Say frogs, because we're not paying attention to that yet. Aha! We blew up. This is what I was afraid of. Is I ran into all kinds of issues. Oh, actually, maybe that's because I didn't restart it. Let me restart it. Make sure that it's rereading the toml, and we can also look and see what it said. So it's proxying orgs to API GitHub orgs. Okay, that looks correct. Now, orgs has a slash after it here, and neither of these did. Do I care? Not sure. I mean, we've got one after here, so probably doesn't matter, and extra slashes tend not to matter in URLs. And we blew up. So we expected a string and we got null somewhere. That isn't good. So that was on line 142. Where is that? So this unwrap died. So our attempt to get a vec of repository, so the JSON failed. We did not get the desired JSON. We got something else. So I think we need to figure out what it is we're getting, and see if we can take that apart and make sense out of what's happening. I was afraid this was going to happen because this is sort of where I got lost last night, playing around with this a little bit, trying to make sure I was kind of prepared for today. So I think one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to separate this into pieces so that I have the response and I can do something if the response isn't right, and then from that attempt to parse the result if the response looked good, because I want to be able to like separate these into chunks, because as I said, I think the response if this fails is different from the response if that fails, and it'll also make debugging simpler. So I'm going to say this is the fetched videos response, and it's going to be a response that's this or an error of some sort, and I'm going to then semicolon there, and actually I'm just going to comment all of that out for the moment. Okay, so it doesn't know what that is because that's got to be imported. Yeah, we want requasm, and it is not happy about, oh, there we go. What? Oh, it's just response. It doesn't take generic arguments. I thought it did. And voila. Okay. And then we will actually not just blindly unwrap it. Ooh, whoa. I didn't like that. Oh, okay. Oh, that's if we don't unwrap, we don't get, it's a result type, and we'd have to unwrap it to get the response type. So we actually do want a result that's a response or an error. Okay, so that's when I said response and added the two things. I really wanted result. And this is, I'm going to have to import. I don't think it's going to give me the right one. Oh, it's going to give me the choice. Haha. Well done. Okay. Now, this is probably a mess up here. Yeah, so this is really all kinds of craziness. So let's get the requism down here and put, I want to request, then response, and then error. Okay. Doodly doo. Okay. Now, so here, this is either worked or it has failed. If it failed, it's probably because we typed in an organization that doesn't exist. At least down the road, that'll be the case. So I ought to be able to say, so this is really, this is really a result, not a response. So then I could say if let fetched videos response equals fetched. Oh, I think it response is okay. No. What's the syntax again? If let Rust if let. I think I'd know this, but apparently not. If let. So it's the pattern on the left and the value on the right. There we go. So if let sum fetched, actually I've got my name here, equals fetch. Oh, and fetched videos is a terrible name and needs to be changed. Result. If that's true, then we'll do something. Otherwise, we will do something else. Which I actually care about the something else, because there'll be an error. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. Let's roll with this for now. And actually let's quick rename this because it's dumb. Fetched repos result. And then this is going to be repos here, repos. Okay. Why is it yelling? Oops. Actually, hang on. Expected result found option. What? So fetch repos result. I feel like I'm doing the. So this is a thing. Pattern. Yeah. So this is the thing. We're patterning against that. It's of type result. So we should be able to have, oh, it's okay, not some. Okay is option. And I think it was even trying to tell me that. Okay, so if this fails, then we want to return HTML bang, format bang, the organization organization was unknown. Oh, yeah. So we need to actually get the organization. Props dot organization. Boom. Boom. I think that'll be wrong because we need that to be a reference, right? No, that didn't work. What is... Oh, this is inside this callback. Oh, poops. So we can't return something out of that. We're going to have to use the state. That's awkward. That is definitely awkward. Huh. Well, let's... let's just not do anything right now. We'll leave that empty and need to find a way to return an error here to the user. Woo! Because the organization probably didn't exist. Boom. And then here we have got the result, the response, and we can check to see. I don't feel I'm doing this in a very rusty way. What if I just real quick? Yeah, let's cheat. Let's change the state here to be a string. And oh, I actually want a string. Yeah. And then here we can actually put repositories.set. There was an error, and here we'll say repositories.set the request succeeded. So in theory that would set those, and we would be able to then see that, except for all this is going to be broken now. So let's just put a simple HTML bang, p format bang. The result of the request was boop ba-da-ba-dee-ba-doo repositories. Can I just set a reference? What? No, it doesn't like that. And I can't. Oh, I need a star. That's the problem. Okay. Is everything compiled now? I think so. Everything makes sense. That's much less clearer. I'll actually restart you because I have no idea where we are. Frogs. Boom. Okay. So we got that the request succeeded. It's now 12 o'clock. I think I'm going to call that. We clearly have got to debug. So Tuesday's got a lot of work to do. We're going to have to because I thought the request was probably succeeding, but I think we want to like print some more information about the response we got here, like what was the actual status code and some stuff like that, because I want to like look at it and see that it's actually a reasonable response and not something that was correct or successful but totally not what we wanted. And then we'll have to, if we get this to looking correct, then we can press on to the JSON parsing stuff. So I think that gives us some work to do for Tuesday. I think we've made some meaningful progress. I certainly feel like I understand parts of this better than I used to. And it's clear that there's a lot of Rust that is not deeply embedded in my head yet. The fact that like if let, I had to look things up. It's like really ought to understand that better. But it's not at my fingertips. It's sort of I could do it when I needed to, and then I lost it in the time between I did if let and rustlings, and now poof, it was gone. But that's depressing. But thank you all for the suggestions. There were a lot of really good pieces of feedback and ideas today, and I really appreciate all the good tips. So thank you. And I will wrap up here, and we will see you all on Tuesday, hopefully, where we will actually get this thing. If we can get the stuff from GitHub to display properly, then we're probably we'll have to like display that nicely in the web presence, and that's going to require figuring out how to make checkboxes in you and deal with them. So there's going to be an issue there. But then we'll also have to, at some point, figure out authentication on the GitHub side, because we're going to want to be able to do things like, please archive this repository, and that's going to require authentication. So we still got stuff to do. So thank you all very much. We will talk to you later. Goodbye.